Donald Trump is announcing some major news tomorrow, but has the United States been leaving tea leaves about their crypto plan and plan for Bitcoin here in the media all along? Now, don't listen to me. Let's hear what Bo Hines had to say for himself here.
We delivered on the president's promises that he made on the campaign trail. The president was adamant about creating the SBR. We wanted to make sure that we did it right in a way that respected Bitcoin for being so unique, and also gave credence to innovation in other spaces of the digital asset world. So, for us here, we look at Bitcoin. It's not a security; it's a commodity. It has intrinsic stored value that's traditionally accepted. It has, as David likes to describe, the immaculate conception. There's no issuer. And that's why, as you saw in the executive order, we compared this to digital gold. It's something that's imperative for the United States to have, retain, continue to build on. And I think that's worth pointing out that the way that this is constructed, we talked about ways of acquiring more Bitcoin in budget neutral ways that won't cost the taxpayer a dime. And what I like to say about this president, I think it's high time that our president started accumulating assets for the American people, which is what President Trump is doing, rather than taking it away. And I think that's one thing that we really wanted to make clear in this executive order. And we're looking forward to working with our partners at Treasury and the Secretary of Commerce in order to find those budget neutral ways in which we can acquire more. I've been asked all the time, it's like, how much do you want? And I said, well, that's like asking a country, how much gold do you want, right? I mean, as much as we can get.
Did you hear that, folks? They want to acquire as much Bitcoin as they can get. Now, what does that sound like? It almost sounds like Michael Saylor's plan that he has been pushing forward, where he wants the US to get $81 trillion worth of Bitcoin. Everybody said, hey, Michael Saylor, you're absolutely crazy. The United States getting 25% of the overall Bitcoin network, that is going to be nuts. But if you listen, you heard it from Bo Hines himself. He's looking at all of this, and so are everybody else in the United States government, saying, hey, we want to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. He said he compared it to gold. It's like asking central banks and countries how much gold they want to acquire. Now, it's absolutely ridiculous that we're here at this stage of everything going on where we're looking at, hey, is Michael Saylor's $81 trillion gold or Bitcoin, Bitcoin policy actually going to go through? I mean, we're looking at it and it seems like, he has given this contagion to states around the country as well, because it's not just different states, right? I mean, we have this rumor floating around, like, what is going to happen tomorrow? That's the biggest question. What is going to happen tomorrow? There's going to be this crypto policy update. But one thing that we do know is we've seen other states now come on board. It seems like this FOMO is now starting to hit the states, as we have states like North Carolina coming in and looking at building a strategic reserve, even looking to allocate up to 10% of their overall holdings towards Bitcoin. It's absolutely insane that we're talking about as much as 10%. But hey, that's where we are today. We've got $81 trillion being thrown around. We've got 10%. And then we have all these other states now looking for considering Bitcoin strategic reserves. So if you look back at this, this article was posted earlier this year in February. We've got Texas. We've got other states, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. We talked about Ohio. All of these other giant states really trying to go towards Bitcoin and getting a Bitcoin standard. Now, one interesting thing with all of this and the timeline of what we're saying here is that we're seeing the United States now looking at a strategic reserve, because they have now the Bitcoin strategic reserve. All it did was move over the seized Bitcoin into a strategic reserve. Now they're looking at tax-friendly ways or friendly ways to not cost the taxpayer any money in order to buy more Bitcoin. And then we have states now looking to buy Bitcoin as well. So with that, the states that we're looking at, right, we've got Texas, Ohio, New Hampshire, Wyoming, Illinois. Like, we've got over 15 different states. And if you combined all of these 15 different states, they've got a lot of assets. They've got 1.5 or Yeah, about $1.5 trillion, 1.05, trillion dollars worth of assets. So if you get 10% of that, that looks like states from just those 15 are going to purchase $1.04 billion. And there, I'll run you through this quick math that I did here with my good friend at Chat JBT. But if you look at all these different states, right, they've got $1.05 trillion worth of assets, because this is in billions here, folks. And then we get 10% of that, you get 104, nearly $105 billion. But it seems like everybody's looking at this. What is the US government going to do? Is this time to front run the US government with everything that we see here going on? Because the US government is moving quickly, but are they moving quickly enough? We've had rumors of other nation states talk about Bitcoin and other things and digital assets. We've even had rumors of Russia potentially using Bitcoin to avoid sanctions. So there's a lot of different governments that are now implementing Bitcoin or starting to take a look at some sort of Bitcoin policy, because it seems like Bitcoin is the at the forefront of all of these politicians' minds. But on the flip side of things, I've been looking at some articles around here to see who else is considering it, and we see that we're still very early here, folks. We've got articles still comparing Bitcoin to the Hawk Tua coin and everything else. And I apologize if I'm not coming through super clearly, guys. As you can tell, I've been a little bit under the weather here. I've had a terrible virus for the past 4 or 5 days, but I wanted to jump on this live stream to talk to you guys about how Bitcoin is different than the Hawk Tua coin, and how the U.S. and Chinese government are leading in government holdings with seized Bitcoin and crime pros, right? So what we had Bo Hines say is basically, hey, we're going to be looking on tax-friendly strategies, ways to not cost the taxpayer any single and not a dime, right? To get and acquire more Bitcoin. But that's going to take some time to figure that out. Now, we've had a friend of the program, Matthew Siegel, line out some of these things, and I'm going to pull up that tweet here in a second as we get that pulling up. I wish I had a little Jamie assistant here to help pulling that up. But basically, what he said was there's different ways. One of them was including selling off the cheese that we have, which I thought was pretty funny, tongue in cheek. But we're gonna go back to his great tweet about that, and I will look for that here as we're still talking a lot about these different tax strategies that we can do that, right? So, we've got Bitcoin and a lot of other potential. Okay, let's just focus on here. Sorry, my brain is all over the place. I've got a little flu game that I'm bringing to you guys here. But either way, Trump's crypto executive director is saying that the government is looking to get, quote, as much Bitcoin as it can possibly get. And I think that's the real headline here. That is the real headline. That's the real story. We've got Bo Hines looking at this stuff saying, hey, we understand the power of Bitcoin. We want to say, hey, we want to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible because we're looking at it as gold. He even said that. He said, would you ask a government how much gold they want to get? Right? I mean, it doesn't really make any sense to me why we would want to limit the amount of gold that we can get. And so, with that, Michael Saylor is saying, hey, we have the obvious number of how much Bitcoin that we could potentially acquire, or the obvious number, excuse me. We have the total supply of Bitcoin that is absolutely fixed. I'm sorry, folks. I am coming through you with so much brain fog from all of this medication that I'm on. But the point of the matter is Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy are doing their best to try to get and acquire as much Bitcoin as possible. And they're teaching the United States government about these tax-friendly ways in order to do it. These friendly ways in order to avoid a bunch of people, pulling up, or to avoid utilizing taxpayer money. So I think with this, Bo Hines saying we want to get as much Bitcoin as possible. We've got Saylor in there. We've got all these different people coming, right? I mean, I think it's absolutely huge. And I think it just proves the point that, we're still very early with everything that is going on. We're seeing Bitcoin's price start to run a little bit here today. We've got Bitcoin sitting at, 86,000 nearly here, with the cusp of this news coming on, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see something jump up. So we've got a lot of great bullish news here going, but I think that there's a lot of underlying macro concerns that we have initially, right? We've got the Fed keeping the interest rates fairly high, and not lowering interest rates, even though that is what Donald Trump has really looked for, really asked for Jerome Powell to do today. And then, he didn't end up going ahead and doing that. And so assets surprisingly ran up a little bit on that news. And I think because Bitcoin ran up on that news, right? It's all these short term movements. Bitcoin ran up on the news of keeping interest rates higher because that's basically the Fed admitting that, inflation is still high. And because the Fed is admitting that inflation is still high, we get a little price pump going on in Bitcoin as well. Now, I've got a great sponsor, the Bitcoin Well. I'm going to give you guys some free sats because they're the lunatics over there. They let you buy Bitcoin straight to cold storage. But with that, every time you buy Bitcoin, you get wishing well tokens. So get out your Lightning wallets, folks, because I'm going to give you guys some free sats. You could get the chance to win 1 million Satoshis here. That could be life-changing money. That's just under 900 smackers right now. So let's see. What do we got this wishing well? Let's go. Drum roll, please. All right, we got 210 sats. We got to keep stacking no matter how we can. So somebody get in there and stack those sats. If you want to join the revolution at Bitcoin Well, you can go to bitcoinwell.com/green candle. I've been told it's not backslash, it is just slash in the comments. And my man Cascader is saying here, Brandon is in his Jordan Game 6 mode, pushing through that flu. Bring in the good word of Bitcoin rapture from fiat bullshit. Amen. Thank you so much, Jim. I'm trying, folks. I'm trying to tough it out for you guys. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm sure you can hear my voice. I'm hurting a little bit here, but yes, smoke that like Cheech and Chong, as Down Under Blue says, trying to buy. Yeah, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm also trying to buy all the Bitcoin as well. So I appreciate all you guys joining in. Get yourself to bitcoinwell.com/green candle and join the revolution. But remember, what is the whole premise of what we're talking about here? We've got Trump's executive director, Bo Hines, saying we want to get as much Bitcoin as we can get. Trump is taking advice from very smart people. He's taking advice from all of the people who really truly believe in Bitcoin and digital assets, right? So digital assets to a lesser extent, but they don't want to stop innovation in the United States. Trump came onto the stage at the Bitcoin conference that he wants all the Bitcoin made in the United States. Obviously, as Bitcoiners, we know that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but I think it's beside the point. He wants to bring innovation back to the United States. So he's trying to be the first crypto president, so to speak. And so what does that entail? We're going to find out more about that tomorrow. But what I do think that's going to entail is that they've taken a week and they have found a lot of strategies to buy Bitcoin without costing the taxpayer a dime. So I think that we're going to see a lot of these strategies be unveiled tomorrow. And I'm very excited to see what President Trump has come up with. And I've also got a great podcast for you guys that I just dropped today, with my man Punter Jeff here. So I think you guys should all go and check that out immediately following this. But go check out this podcast here with my man Punter Jeff. We've got that right there. Smoke the like Cheech and Chong. I'm going to keep it short because I'm hurting, but I appreciate you guys all toughing it out with me. And we'll be on back tomorrow to talk potentially about what President Trump is unveiling here going forward.